Hello and welcome to this basic introduction video about Procreate. Procreate is an app that you can download from the Apple App Store for iPad. This is how the Procreate app looks like when you open it for the first time. So there will be many files, and when you want to create a new file, you can tap this and select a size you want to use to create the image or the artwork. So let's go ahead and choose the basic screen size here. In the screen size, you get literally what your iPad screen size is. So you get a canvas of that same size. So that means later when you are saving the file, you will get an image that is of this size. So I'll show you how to do that in some time. But basic things first. The number one thing you need to know about Procreate is that it works based on using an idea called layers. If you're a beginner to graphic design, or if you've never done a Photoshop or anything, this is a new concept, but people who are familiar with other illustration tool might find it already that they already know. So it's nothing, just that all your lines or all your drawings are spread out into layers, and this is very convenient in digital illustration because you can create as many layers as you want, and then when you draw on one layer, you can draw something in one layer, and then you could make the next drawing in, say, another layer. And if you want to move them or switch them apart, this is very easy to do. So this helps in kind of organizing the artwork. Like you could just delete layers when you don't need them, only the parts that you don't need. And then, say for example, usually how people do is they just draw the objects, specific objects, like each layer would have one object. So if you're drawing like a sunshine, so you would be like drawing each of these things in a different layer. So that means it's easy to organize, and as you become a better illustrator, you will find this very helpful, the layer system. So the next thing we want to know about is using how to use brushes in Procreate. Procreate have hundreds of brushes that come pre-installed, and each of them is like a different texture, and people use it for different purposes and different effects. So to get started with as the most simple ones, you could go to inks, and actually not ink. So now let's have a look at the next most important thing in Procreate, that is how to use brushes. So Procreate comes with a lot of brushes, but you don't need all of them to get started. You could go to one of the simple ones. Right now I prefer basics and something called Jigger. And you can get this brush, and it's one of the easiest brush to get started. Like it's a normal brush, so if you want to draw something, you could start drawing with this brush, and you can increase the size of the brush here. So if you make it bigger, it will be like this, and this is the opacity. So 90% of the time, all you need is some brushes, the size of the brush, use layers to create different layers, and then the next one is using the eraser. So whatever you draw with the brush, you can erase it off. So one thing very interesting in Procreate is that the eraser is also a brush. So it erases in a particular pattern if you want that to happen. So if you pick an eraser of this size, then you can see that this is like something like this. So you get that pattern when you erase. So it's a bit tricky to understand at first. But once you get used to it, this is really helpful. But if you don't want to have this pattern, just increase the force. Even if it's still not going, go back to a basic brush here that is very hard. I'm in the classic library, so there are now libraries of brush available in Procreate. So go to the same brush, Jigger, and then erase them off. Or another way is you can just delete the layers. So next is the transform tool. So if I want to put in some colors here, say for example I just did this, this is a transform tool or the select tool, and you have a few options here. So if you choose like a rectangle, you can then do a 3-finger swipe to copy or cut that particular place. Then again 3-finger swipe to do that, cut off that portion. So here it is. And then you can transform. If you choose uniform to transform, it maintains the aspect ratio, and if you use the free form, it doesn't maintain the aspect ratio, you could just keep expanding them. And then there are like flip horizontal, flip vertical, rotate, so you can do a lot of things here. Let's do a small exercise to put everything that we have learned so far into practice. So go to screen size, create a new shape and create a new layer. What I'm gonna do is show you something interesting, and just so that you know how easy it is. Just gonna draw yellow here, and then I love the combination yellow and purple. So if this is like this, you could do this, and now you have an image here. So this is now a combination of two colors, and in Procreate we have something called adjustments. So these might look a bit confusing, but don't worry, there are just a few that we usually use, and that is Gaussian blur and liquify. Let's start with Gaussian blur, liquify, hue, saturation. These are only the few things that we use most of the time, but we can play around with this. So these are like, if you choose a layer and you go to here, you can use these adjustments on that layer. So Gaussian blur is a very popular one. That is, you can just tap on it and then you run your brush like this, the pencil like this, and this kind of blurs the image. So you get this nice little effect here of a gradient. So this is a nice background that you can have. And another tool is that if you go here and add text, if you tap on add text, you can actually start writing here, and then you could say something like, okay, Instagram. Now, see, it's a bit hard to find out where is the center. So something that you can do is go here, tap on snapping, turn on these two, and then when you snap, you can just snap really right at the middle. So you got that, and then notice that this is a text here. So this is a text layer, and this layer is a background. So now I want to show you something called masking. So I have moved this layer up here, and then when I tap on the layer, I can see something called clipping mask. So what clipping mask does is it kind of like, this layer masks only the portion of the visible part of the layer beneath it. So see, if I move it, I can see that this is moving. Now if I do something like, what is the colors of Instagram? So okay, it's purple, orange, yellow. If I do something like purple, and here we go, orange, here we go, yellow, and then if we come to this layer, remember, so you can see that I've selected this layer. We come here and let's do this as a clipping mask, remove this layer, Gaussian blur, and then if you do this, you can get that effect of maybe sort of Instagram effect here. It's just a small example, so it's like a good exercise. I believe that is that. So if you want to export this, you can tap on share. You could say here, yeah, so you can click on the save app and click on save image, and this will go to your photos library and you can share it with your friends or whoever needs it or clients.